Hello, welcome back to Blink Songs. Man, I haven't made a video for this channel in a long time. um so the only reason I could say is I've been focusing on my other channel, which I now call Cartridge Gamer 64, but I'm not going to focus on that channel in this channel. But I just want to let you guys know that's why there's been a delay in making this particular video that maybe no one will care about. Who knows? But in my Ringo Says It's So video, I promised to make my own album depicting what I think the last Beatles album would be. So without further ado, let's roll into it. So I figured that this would be the last official album. Like after this album, the Beatles would still break up, still all go on their own, have solo careers and all. So I think it's perfect to call this All Things Must Pass. I know, like George's album. So there's a few issues that or at least one I could think of off the top of my head that I had to address. Paul McCartney's solo album is the closest solo album to release of Let It Be. So in order to have Paul McCartney's first solo album stuff on the album, either Paul or someone close to Paul has to be like, hey, it's not a good idea to make a solo album yet. Finish this album and then, or basically whatever it would take to convince Paul to cancel his first solo album. And of course, all the other Beatles solo albums would be cancelled. And why I define solo albums as like not albums they did without the other three. I mean like albums after the release of Let It Be, because in our timeline, that's the last album the Beatles ever made. And every album since been solo albums. So basically albums that were made after the breakup, I consider solo albums. So I comprise the album of the first solo albums. And I gave George more songs on this album, as you'll see. So, I start off with Maybe I'm Amazed, because as I just personally feel like it should start the album, and it goes straight into Oh You. Now, I didn't like this song, but it's like, because I didn't like it, it was good enough for the album. And then we go into the first George song on the album, Beware of Darkness. Which kind of starts a somber tone. And then it goes into Hear Me, Lord. And then it goes into All Things Must Pass, the title track. And then goes into My Sweet Lord, which would pick the album up. So I think if I did this right, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So after My Sweet Lord, the A-side would end with John's mother. And then you flip on the vinyl to be greeted with George's Wawa. Kind of like with when it comes to My Sweet Lord and Mother and Wawa, I guess it would be like the high energy songs. And then it kind of comes settled down into John's I Found Out, and goes almost gets ready to shift into Paul's little section with John's Look at Me. And then after that goes into Teddy Boy and Paul's Junk. Paul's Junk. And then goes into Hold On, and then which Hold On I think would be the last official song on the album, but I think my Mummy's Dead and The Lovely Linda would be like bonus tracks for the album. So I'm going to make a playlist of this on this channel, so you guys could see the album that was my arrangement. Not like, disclaimer, I'm not claiming I mix or produce or anything. I just arrange the tracks in the order I think that the Beatles would have if they're making this album. I believe that George would get more of his songs on the album, but I think Lennon and McCartney would still end up with majority of songs on the album. And keep in mind, even though there were supposed to be 2 songs for Ringo, I went with the off chance that Ringo wouldn't take the offer. So, of course, if that was the case, we would have probably added Don't Come, or no, what was it, yeah, I think someone said, Don't Come Easy, or was recorded around that time, or something. But, yeah. So, or at least in 71. But, the whole point of the album is, like, it'd be the second album released in, 1970. Like, late into 1970. That's mainly why I went with, the first Beatles solo albums. Now, once I set this up, listen to it yourself, or even track down all the songs and just, like, compose it yourself. Of course, for those who might not be able to hear me because I have a bad voice, I'll write all the songs down coherently in the description so you could guys find it easier. I cannot believe I finally made this video. And I'm sorry for those who were actually waiting this long amount of time for this video. So thank you guys for watching, and if you feel I deserve it, give me a thumbs up. If you don't, give me a thumbs down, and just let me know. Should I never made this video at all? Nah, I wouldn't made the video anyways. So thank you guys for watching, and have a groovy time in 2020.